I am back with a really big tutorial for y'all today. This is my client's before. She has a whole mess of stuff in her hair. And after 6 hours, we got her to this. And I'm super, super proud of it. Very, very happy with it. We had no breakage. And I am going to show you guys exactly what I did and go into lots of detail on how I did it. So stick around. So let's begin. This is the lovely and beautiful Meagin, who is a hairstylist, and she has a previous history. Right now here you could see 3 bands in her hair, maybe a little bit more, but we have her natural at like a level 7 at the top. Then we have this really big thick band of a deep red. And then at the ends here, you can see there was previous blonding, tons and tons and tons of blonding in there, and that had been gone over with a permanent red. So she used davines and she used a permanent line, and she went to about level 6, 7. And ever since then, she's regretted it, been trying to let it fade and lighten over time. And she came to me and said, I just want to go back blonde, and I want to go back to really sunny, warm, bright, golden blonde. So of course we're going to use K18 on her, and I have my Framar set up. I'm just going to be using just a few tools today. It's actually a pretty simple process to start off with because, as you know, color corrections can get really messy and complicated. Let's keep this as simple as possible. So I'm just taking section by section and I'm really generously coating it with the K18 spray to start, especially on those blonde ends, because that's what I'm actually concerned about here when it comes to breakage. I'm not concerned about her roots or the first 6 inches beyond the roots. That's been covered with a permanent color. That's going to be fine. I'm worried about these ends. And you can see it a little bit better when her hair is wet with the K18 here, the kind of general line of where her color ends and where her bleach begins. So that's our danger zone today. What's in the bowl? Today I'm going to be mixing together Schwarzkopf Blonde Me and 7 volume developer in a 1:2 ratio. And I'm doing this in a 1:2 ratio because I want our bleach to be a little less strong. I find that when I mix a thicker ratio, the bleach works a little faster and a little stronger. So we're going for a little bit more of a yogurty consistency rather than a Greek yogurt consistency. So I know that a lot of you guys have been told by a lot of hairdressers, never start with putting bleach on the roots and the mids at the same time. You're supposed to do the mids and then the roots and then the ends. And I totally understand and respect that. And that does work for many cases. But for this case, I'll go into explaining why I decided to put on the roots and the mids at the same time. But let's just understand that all color corrections should be approached as individual sessions with their own needs and own directions and how we take them. And so this is just how I'm doing this one. Her natural roots are pretty light. She's like a level 7. And she has some permanent color throughout like the first 6 to 7 inches of her hair beyond those roots. Those roots are about 1.5 inches long. And the permanent color is going to take a little while to lift. And it's at a light color enough already. Like you could see that it's lifted to about a level 7 copper. So it already has a little bit of lift to it. And she has her root in there as well. I expect that this is going to lift pretty fast because of both of those things together. And what I want to avoid today is having to section and resection while her hair is coated with bleach. It's so much more destructive to, in my opinion at least, go in for the mids and then go into the roots and then go into the ends, because you have to take your foiling comb or whatever you're using to section the hair and separate it and pull this long hair apart if it starts connecting, or using foils, whatever it is that you want to do. This is a fast way to apply her roots and mids. They're all going to lift together very evenly, and she's not going to have banding from this. We're going to still see a little bit of staining because of her previous color work, but that's a different situation than like heat banding that you get from heat displacement on the head. So again, in maybe like a darker natural base situation, I would apply mids and then roots and then ends, but I would also use foils in that case to separate my pieces so that I'm not tearing away at her hair that's covered in bleach. Things are starting to stick together. The hair's in a fragile state. But this is just why I decided to do it like this today. And you'll see that she has a very even and soft result with her roots to mids application. And now we're also not having to worry about when we apply those mids and they lift to like a level 9, 10, and then we apply the roots. That does take a lot more time to do that, and you don't want to overlap those roots to mids area where you can get a lot of banding and breakage with that as well. So again, this just worked best for this case. I would apply it probably a little bit differently in cases with people with darker hair or a different situation. But again, take it as you may, learn what you want from these videos. But yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. So now you can see with my application here that yes, I'm applying tons and tons of product to that root area to kind of push it through, and I'm making sure that I'm taking thin enough sections that the product can fully penetrate through the hair from one side to another. And I'm applying on top of my hand so I can also feel that like the bleach is coming through, rather than using a paddle board, which is also another way that you could do this. But I personally feel like I like to use my hands here. It feels a little bit quicker, and I just know I'm getting better saturation here. And I'm trying to make sure that every single piece that I do is being evenly saturated from, top to bottom of where I'm trying to go here. I'm not trying to leave any large clumps of bleach anywhere, because that can cause a little bit of extra lift in some areas, and I'm just trying to get as even a lift as possible. And I'm also trying to avoid those bleached areas at the ends, but you get snow blindness when something is a little bit hard to see the tone between two colors. When one's like a level 7 and one's a 7.5, and you're just working on like millions of hairs at one time, it's just very hard to tell. So I am just kind of going a little bit less saturated with those mids, because I know I'm going to be recoating them later with more of this mixture, and just taking it step by step. But essentially what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be doing all the quadrants the same. I'm going to start with the back so that I can rinse it out at any point if I need to, and she can help me by holding the sides. But this is how I'm going to go with my first step, with Blonde Me and 7 volume mixed to a yogurty consistency. And I am measuring all of my bowls today because I want to make sure everything is exactly the same. Also, as you guys know with me, my rule is to be constantly mixing new bowls. So after about 10-15 minutes, you should be mixing a new bowl, especially if you're doing a color correction like this, because you want everything to be lifted to the same level. We're trying to create a clean canvas for her. We're trying to go full bleach out, and full bleach out requires a lot of like consistency and measuring here, because if you mix your bowls to different measurements, you're not going to get the same lift everywhere. And if you don't get the same lift everywhere, especially with lots of banding and lots of different colors to start with, you're going to have a really hard time toning this. So make sure you measure your bowls when you're doing a bleach out color correction, and make sure that you're constantly mixing new bowls so that your bowls don't lose power and become weaker as you're applying them, because the cloudy, watery mixture that bleach turns into is not very strong, and you're not going to get a good lift with that. And I'm just loosely wrapping these ponytails with foil so that they insulate and keep nice and warm without keeping too warm. We don't want them to dry out. We don't want those outer layers of these ponytails to not process as light as everything else. So this is what she looks like after she's gotten everything in. We've used the foils to make sure that her head stays nice and warm evenly all throughout, and that we haven't left any open gaps except for just around the face there. But that's a nice warm area anyways. Her face is going to radiate some heat, so we don't really need to cover her face with foils. Now here we can see that I am checking the back of her hair to see how much she is lifted. And once I kind of open up these sections, you can see that the roots have lifted to a beautiful pure like level 8.5, 9, and those mids to ends are a level 8.5 to 9, but they're still a very stained golden color, and that's just the nature of coloring your hair darker red. You're still going to lift to the same level, but you're going to have staining that you have to deal with, and I'll deal with that when it comes to my toning later on to balance out the hair. But we've lifted quite nicely, and now we're on to our next step. So here is the ends and here is the mids, and you can tell that the mids are now lifted lighter than the ends. It's still not time to apply to our ends, but I can see that we are very close to being where we need to be with the roots and the mids. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go section by section, and I'm going to use my fingers to kind of like squeegee the product from the roots where it's starting to get a little full, a little bit too much product there, and squeegee it down towards the mids and towards that area where it starts to connect from the mids to the bleached areas. And what this is going to do is it's going to simultaneously pull away any product that's still working from the roots, because the roots are lifted to a great level and we don't really need them to lift anymore, because there is bleach being left on the hair instead of rinsing it away. It's still going to bump up like half a level, but this is really going to slow it down because it's pulling away a lot of that product. And with the more product, the more warm and insulated it gets. So as you can see, I'm just scraping away that product, guiding it down the hair, and it's just going to distribute a very weak product that only has a little bit of power left to it down and into those bleach zones, so I can see exactly where it is that her previous color ends and her previous bleaching begins. And this is a pretty safe way in doing it. And of course, we have the K18 covering those ends as well, so I'm not really concerned about them too much, but I am being careful about how much product I am scraping down. And if there's a little bit too much in the area, I'll just make sure to kind of rub it into any areas that seem a little bit more orangey up at the top and not guide it too far down into these bleached danger zones. So this is what I like to do with this type of situation. We're looking like we're pretty close, but not all the way. And I don't need all this product to be working that hard right up at the roots. We're just spreading the love everywhere, down through the mids to the ends. It's been some time, and you can see that those mids and ends have still bumped up a little bit, and they're looking even better, and those ends aren't quite ready yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the sides, and the sides look like they're ready, but they're really not. When you actually compare them to the back, how pure that back looks and how orange and warm the front still looks. So this is letting me know that I need to leave the front on for quite a bit longer, and the back is pretty much almost ready to come out. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing that same squeegee method by making sure that nothing in the front is going to be too over-processed or anything like that, scraping it away from the root, bringing it down through the mids and ends. And what I'm also doing here is I'm taking some old lightener that was sitting in the bowl. It's very weak as well, but I am reapplying to any areas that seem a little bit warmer, might need a little extra boost, and I'm dragging it down through those bleached ends, not all the way to the end though, but I'm being a little less cautious, I guess I should say, with the bleached ends in the front, because I'm about to apply the bleach everywhere into the back and to the front. But this is going to just help us boost up those front pieces and get them to catch up to where the back is in a safe way. Again, using that old bleach in the bowl is a good way to do it because it's been sitting there for quite a while, so it just doesn't have a lot of power to it. And here I am comparing the back and the front, seeing how pure the back has lifted and how much further the front needs to go. Here is a little bit of a closer look for you guys. You can see that there's still a little bit of a golden undertone there versus this has more of a white and yellow undertone. And it's a lot more obvious when you actually hold them next to each other. So this is a good thing to keep in mind. The front may take a little bit longer than the back, and there's several reasons for that. One is because the back has a lot more hair, so it's a lot more heated, a lot more insulated, and the back of her back is actually heating up the hair versus the side of her face isn't heating up as much as her neck and back are with the back area. And it's been in longer, so those are several reasons why the front is taking a little bit longer, but that's okay. We've got plenty of time today. As I said, it was a 6-hour color correction. So what I've done here is I have bagged up either of her sides so that she can protect them and hold them while we're about to go to the sink and rinse out the back, because the back is ready to be rinsed. She looks so cute. I love her. And so now we're rinsing it, and you can see how truly yellow her hair is underneath. Don't let bleach fool you. It does not look white. That all comes from toning, but look at how yellow that is. So we did just a rinse, we didn't even shampoo it, and I am just trying to very gently detangle her hair here so we can really see what we've got going on, as we don't want to apply bleach to any tangles in the hair. That's going to cause uneven lift everywhere. And now we are applying bleach to her damp hair. And I'm using the same formula as before, 7 volume and Blonde Me mixed a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm applying to those ends first to get them fully saturated, and I will be guiding up the product into these golden mids, and I'm staying away from the roots, but some of these mids still need to be lifted because you can see how golden and yellow they really are. And this is all kind of being done all at once. The dampness of the hair is going to help also just kind of water down the power of the lightener that I have in my bowl as well. So this is another safe way of doing it. And yeah, I'm just trying to hit any area that I feel like isn't quite ready. But this is where all that magic happens, where you start seeing things come together and get a little bit more even. And with this process here, I am just trying to make sure that we're getting her to a more even canvas. Of course, nothing's going to be perfect because this is a color correction, not a color perfection. I know that's really cheesy, but I think that some people need to hear that every once in a while, is that we're not going to expect a perfect result. We are expecting an improved result. So I think that with something like this, where you have so much going on in the hair, you can't really expect a perfect, pure white, clean canvas at the end anyways, because of all the previous color history. But I think we did get pretty close today. So, yep, I'm applying to the ends and then to the mids, and I'm also leaving on those front areas to keep processing. And then I'm going to apply to the ends of the front areas as well. And I won't be rinsing the fronts the way I did with the back. I'm going to rinse it all together once it's all done, because those front areas just need to lift a little bit longer. And because they've been sitting on for so long, the bleach isn't very powerful anymore. But I feel like everything's coming together at the right time with the right power and consistency, all to even out. And that just comes down to planning and measuring and being quick on your feet. And here she is processing. This is such a cool shot to me. I just love how everything's coming together and lightening up so beautifully. And then I'm going to wash her out. And here is our washed out result. Now it comes down to the toning, but you can see that, yes, the ends are still quite a bit darker than it is up at the root, and that just comes down to staining. But we want to keep her hair as healthy as possible, so we didn't want to sacrifice those ends. So let's go into the root formula that I'm doing today. I'm doing Schwarzkopf Vibrance 9.5/5 with 9.0, and that's a 2-to-1 ratio. So I'm using 2 parts 9.5/5, which is a level 9.5 gold, and 1 part 9.0, which is a level 9 natural. And I'm using 6 volume here, and that's a 1-to-1 ratio with the developer to the toner. And so what this is going to do is I'm applying it just to her roots, anywhere that's lifted to that perfect white blonde, because I am trying to tone everything to where the middle is, and I'm trying to correct and balance everything to where the majority of her color is, not to where the minority of her color is. We're not trying to tone everything to be the same color as the roots, because that's not really going to be possible for her to upkeep. It's going to get really brassy really fast. But let's go to the middle. And so we're bringing down our roots half a level. And you can see that they've been processing here, and it's already kind of catching up and looking a lot more blended. Then we have our mids to ends toner formula, and that's with Schwarzkopf. I've used 2 ounces of level 9.519, which is a Cendre Violet. So that's an ash tone, with 1 ounce of 9.5 gold. And that's just going to keep us balanced here, because again, we don't want an ashy tone. She told me, she's like, I don't want gray hair, I don't want silver hair, I don't want ashy at all. I want golden, sunny blonde. She even asked for more of like a raw blonde look. So obviously we can't do a raw blonde today, but we are going for a warm, bright, golden hour, sunny blonde. And then I used a splash of level 9.598, which is a violet red, has a slightly pinkish undertone to it, because she told me that if she were to have any ash tones in her hair, she'd prefer it to be more of a pinky ash than a bluey ash, if that makes sense. So we have a little bit of violet in here to combat these yellow tones. We have that tiniest bit of red to combat it from going muddy and bluey, which it's not going to anyways. And then we have a little bit of gold in here to balance and fill everything. And I'm using my brush here to blend in our root formula to our mids and ends formula. But essentially my client here said earlier today, oh yeah, like I know we're going to have to cut a lot of the ends off because they're going to be darker than everything else. And we had kept addressing this issue during our service. And I said to her, I'm not going to cut it until we've finished the color work, because I want to see if we can do something about these ends to make them blend better, because she's very attached to the length of her hair. And we didn't want to just cut off a bunch of her ends, because we're like, okay, well, it's no point in trying to blend these out. I think we did a very good job of giving her a soft enough blend that we didn't have to get rid of a lot of ends, because she was scared she was going to have to do a bob. This is what our hair looks like after it's been washed and blow dried. We haven't done any styling or cutting yet, but I have a fun little surprise for you guys. We got to film her reaction because she didn't want to see it while I was getting blow dried. Here is her reaction. Now, obviously, I can't play the sound because there was music playing in the background of my salon, but she's been closing her eyes, and here comes the big reveal for her. And she's immediately so happy and so excited. She was very scared that the toner was going to make it really dark because while it was processing, she was like, this is going to be like a level 6, 7. But no, toner is just very tricky when you look at it while it's processing. But once it rinses out, it's super light and soft. And we're loving the quality of her hair. It feels so soft. We had no breakage. It feels amazing. Right there, she's pointing to where she thought we were going to have to cut it to. But I'm just letting her know that her ends, while they are still a different color than her roots, as is the situation that we have on our hands today, the gradient we have from our roots to our ends is so soft and subtle that no one's really going to notice that. We're still going to be trimming her hair, taking off a couple of inches because it was dry anyways, and she had done some home cutting, so we needed to even it up anyways. But she's very, very happy with the color, and so happy that we don't have to cut off a bunch of her length that she's very attached to, or have to do a ton of layering to blend out those ends. So we're very happy with this final result. She, honestly, this looks like Barbie blonde to me because of that slight pinky sunsetty undertone. It works so well with her eye color and her skin color, and she's very, very happy with it. So I'm going to show you a little bit of those after shots, and then, yeah, I guess we can do 2 stars and wish right now. My first star today is that we had like no breakage. Very, very happy with that. My second star is that we ended up with a very even result for what we were given. And I guess my wish is that for me, I would have personally put a tiny bit more ash into the formula into the ends, just hit them again a little bit. But I didn't want to stray into too ashy of a formulation because then that can cause a muddy look. And you never want to have ashy roots and warm ends. That's just going to make the difference between the roots and the ends so much more obvious. So having an overall sunsetty golden blonde is just exactly what we wanted, and I'm so happy with this result. I want to know what you guys think. Please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video. I know it was on the longer side, but I felt like I really wanted to give you guys a full breakdown of what I did today. And again, it's not a full tutorial and to do this on everybody. That's just what I did with this instance today. Here it is with the sun setting and it's golden hour, and she looks so beautiful. I'm so happy with this. So anyways, if you want to support the channel, please remember to like and subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends, tell anybody who's interested in hair education about this channel because we're trying to grow and get to 100,000. We're getting so close. So yeah, love you guys. Have a great afternoon or weekend or evening, whenever time you're watching this, and I'll see you guys for the next one.